Thank you. I'm going to call tonight's meeting to order. Can we have the roll call, please?
Yes, I have Councilmember Murray,
Present.
Councilmember Ryan,
Here.
Councilmember Wright, I'm sorry, Mayor Matsumoto Wright,
Here.
Councilmember Sonmore. Okay. Councilmember Woodard,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall,
Here.
and Councilmember McCardle asked to be excused.
Yes.
Move to excuse Councilmember McCardle.
Second.
Right.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. Okay, so we don't know anything about Councilmember Sonmore yet, so we'll wait to see.
Sounds good.
All right. So next on our agenda is the review of the surplus public works vehicles. Oops, the wrong one.
The resolution.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was inserted.
Do we need a motion to?
A motion to add something to the agenda? Well, we're going to read it now.
Yes, the council would actually make a motion to add that to the agenda.
Okay, why don't you?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to add a proclamation to the agenda, 2A, 2.5, 2.5.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So we are going to add this, we're going to add the proclamation for the City of Mountlake Terrace, Virginia Clough Day, which was yesterday. Do you want me to read it, or?
Excuse me. If you'd like to read it, yes, that'd be great. Or I could read it for you.
Well, I have it right here.
Okay.
All right, so as we all know, Virginia's last official day was yesterday, and it's going to be tough to be running the city without her. So we're going to have the City of Mountlake Terrace Proclamation, Virginia Clough Day, August 31st, 2022. Whereas Virginia Clough began her career with the City of Mountlake Terrace in July of 2001 as Virginia Olson, and whereas Virginia is the longest-serving city clerk in the city's 68-year history, and whereas over a 21-year period, Virginia worked for 4 mayors and 4 city managers, presided over 1,000 city council meetings, helped oversee and manage 200-plus special events, including Tour de Terrace, National Night Out, park cleanups, 4th of July, tree lighting, and whereas Virginia was involved in many aspects of the city's business, from leading numerous community events to keeping the council informed and prepared. And whereas Virginia's excellent relationship skills led to many fantastic friendships and connections with community members from all walks of life. And whereas her excellence transcended into neighboring communities through her work with the Washington State Municipal Clerks Association. And whereas City Council and staff, residents, and business owners will miss Virginia's expertise, flexibility, integrity, wisdom, patience, and grace she brought to her job every day. And now, therefore, I, Kyoko Matsumoto Wright, Mayor of the City of Mountlake Terrace, call upon all residents of Mountlake Terrace, as well as civic and educational organizations, to observe the day of August 31st as Virginia Clough Day, signed by the mayor this first day of September.
You're here.
I wish she was here so we can present it to her.
Yes.
Thank
She
you.
left hours ago.
Okay, so now, next on our agenda is the review of surplus public works vehicles. And is that Jesse? Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem
Okay, Jesse, could you push the button on the microphone? The red light will come on. There you go.
Did I get it? I got it, okay. Can you hear me now? Yeah. I'm here to request that we be allowed to surplus 3 vehicles. One of them was a police car, and 2 others were police staff cars. One is actually a wreck, and the other 2 are just past useful life that we assessed. They are a Ford Explorer, a Ford Fusion, and a Ford Escape. Can I answer any other questions about this? We had them assessed by our mechanic. It's pretty straightforward. Probably the easiest thing all night. No? Okay. Do I,
So do we give an answer now, or?
Place it on consent for Monday night.
Okay, so it's going to be in consent calendar.
Or I should say Tuesday
Or
night.
Tuesday. Dear. Okay, so, then next on our agenda is the consideration of resolution of intent to designate the Mountlake Terrace Town Center subarea as a residential targeted area for the purposes of establishing a multifamily property tax exemption program.
Good evening, council members. For the record, Stephen Clifton, acting city manager. During the August 11th, 2022 city council meeting, the council discussed 8 and 12-year exemption options and affordability thresholds. The reason being the 20-year option is currently not available for use. And at the conclusion of the meeting, the city council expressed support for taking steps necessary to implement a multifamily tax exemption program that includes 8 and 12-year options. The 12-year option would require 20% of the units with below market rents at 80% of area median income. In your packet is a memorandum dated September 1st. It contains a little bit of background related to the revised Code of Washington and what it authorizes. And then also, I like to include within my memos hyperlinks to any previous meetings that might have taken place. So any citizen can go on to the website, they can hyperlink and see all the documents that have been presented to the city council previously. And the resolution before you tonight is really expressing the council's intention to designate the Mountlake Terrace Town Center subarea. That would include the core and also the north and the south, what we call the head and the tails. And you have a map that's attached to the resolution, so everyone can clearly see what area would be the residential target area. And the resolution itself, once adopted, then would, express the intentions of the council. And also, it sets a date and a time for October 3rd at 7 p.m. for a public hearing. The public hearing is where you will actually approve and adopt the residential target area. And then also, the ordinance would include all the requirements related to a multifamily tax exemption program. And so that will be on the October 3rd agenda. So if you have any questions, I can certainly answer those right now, but this will be placed on the Tuesday agenda, on the consent agenda for approval.
Do we have any, Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Acting City Manager Stefan. Can you walk through the proposed town center residential targeted area and how we came up with that map?
It matches the boundaries of the town center subarea, which was approved by the City Council in 2019. So we had a process where we updated the town center, and the town center included updating the boundary of the town center, and it was expanded to the northwest. The rest of the boundaries pretty much stayed the same. It also included designating town center districts, districts 1, 2, 3, and 4. Districts 1, 2, and 3 are located within the core. And so when the council approved the town center sub-area plan, then it also approved the boundaries of the town center.
Thank you. And just to expand a little bit, so the targeted area that we are looking at includes the town center reserve. I guess
That's correct.
I'd just be curious, kind of the thoughts about including that particular designation as part of this.
Yeah, well, when we talk about the town center, we're always talking about the core and the reserve. And so whenever we reference the town center before, it was always including the entire town center.
Great, thank you.
And I should note that it can only apply to projects if you have more than 4 units, regardless of what zone you're in. Yeah.
Councilmember Ryan?
Okay. Question for you is, this is considering 8-year and 12-year, and I'm wondering, is it, to clear it up, is it the contractor gets to pick if he wants 8 or 12, or how's that work?
Yes, the contractor would come into the city, they would apply for either an 8 or a 12-year program. Under the 12-year program, that would require the contractor to set aside 20% of the units at 80% of AMI. Under the 8-year program, if the contractor wants to apply for the 8-year program, the same requirements do not apply.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay, so this is going to be on the, I'm sorry, I didn't bring my laptop, so, yes, it'll be on this consent agenda
September 6th.
on next Tuesday. Thank you. Okay, so if there are no more questions or comments, I'm going to move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the introduction to draft code changes to Chapter 18.05, Administration and Procedures, and Chapter 19.110, Zoning Permits, parentheses, Land Use Hearing Examiner.
Good evening, Council, Mayor Pro Tem Christy Osborne, Community and Economic Development Director. I'm gonna show a PowerPoint this evening. I can see that this is already, oh, hold on a second. I think this is kind of best way for us to go over what is a couple of chapters in our zoning code that are somewhat lengthy, and as a way to introduce them, when we started to review the chapters, I thought it was best that we go through and repeal what is now Chapter 1805. So we have both of these chapters in our code presently. But in order to do the changes that we needed to do, instead of making it more confusing than it might be otherwise, of just recommend repealing what we have as a chapter and rewriting it to be more readable, and hopefully as you guys take a look at these changes as we move forward, that they're in a little bit better shape than I believe that they are right now. So we've always put in quotes, hearing examiner, as far as these changes go, because that is one of the intents as we move forward in making these changes to our administration and procedures, is moving our quasi-judicial land use review to hearing examiner process. So I'll try to explain where we've been and what we're trying to do. So back in 1995, the state legislature created some RCWs called regulatory reform, and that was to streamline the land use permitting process and environmental review. People around the state were being kind of trapped in sometimes these endless review processes for very minor land use applications and such. And so the legislature got involved in put some specific timelines on land use review and tried to make sure that we were consolidating that review to get people in and out of the review process, but also do a thorough review. So each jurisdiction in the state was required to adopt some of these provisions as far as regulatory reform. So the city did just that. Unfortunately, as the city adopted provisions, which is in our chapters 1805 and 19110 to address this reform, the city didn't repeal some of the other provisions in the code. And so what we've been left with is chapters that conflict with each other in our code and other sections of our code that have many issues regarding who's reviewing something, what do we do for notification to the public, what's our criteria to review applications, and those type of things. And so what the intent is here is to clarify that in each of these codes as we move forward, and then also to move the review of the quasi-judicial decision-making to a professional hearing examiner and take that out of review of the Planning Commission and Council and instead use Planning Commission for what is intended the Planning Commission reviews, which is code and policy, comprehensive planning and such, as well as the council, and then to use a professional with a land use background. Usually a land use attorney is the person that's doing the review as a hearing examiner. And we have a land use attorney that presently works for the city as our hearing examiner as well. So just a little bit about our chapter 1805 as we've amended it or proposing to amend it. It's called Administration and Procedures now. So changing the titles a little bit and the intent. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to establish standard procedures and decision criteria, public notification, and then we've also included, if you take a look at this chapter, timelines for decision making as part of the land use. So it's a target. We do have targets of 120 days for some land use decisions per state law, but we're also providing some target timelines as far as the city goes in our chapter to try to streamline our review process and make it more timely as well, something that we've been working on for quite a while. So we have 4 types of permit processes that we've identified. Type A, which is ministerial decisions such as building permits, really kind of low-level reviews. A type B, which is administrative decisions, and these are presently the same administrative decisions that we have now. We're not changing that. Then a type C, which is the quasi-judicial decisions, which would now all go under hearing examiner review. And then type D would be the legislative decisions, and that's what we would see where the Planning Commission and City Council would review those type D legislative decisions. We've added some additional definitions where we've needed them, and then we've included, of course, the required timelines for processing, vesting provisions, if you ask for a time extension, if you're doing a project and you need a time extension, and then outlining our hearing procedures. And then we're also identifying the hearing examiner as well as the person that's reviewing all of those quasi-judicial decisions. So right now we have the hearing examiner looks at variances and conditional use permits only in the city. There's been one since I've been here, and that's been the Sound Transit project. And that was both variances and conditional use permits, but we don't get a lot of variance requests and we don't get a lot of conditional use permit requests right now. So I believe in about the last 5 years, the hearing examiner has done 1 hearing with our present code. So this would change that. And then we need to make some changes to our chapter 19110, which is in our zoning code. And this is where we have conflict in our code of where we have things going to different hearing bodies and different criteria. And so we've renamed this zoning permits. So this is criteria that's required when we're making zoning decisions particularly. So think about zoning decisions would be variances, conditional use permits, site plan review. So we're identifying what that criteria is when we review those applications for the applicant as well as staff when we're implementing this. What is the criteria that we should be using when we review that? So very clear as to what the requirements are. We're also identifying what's a complete application. So in order to vest an application in the state of Washington, we have to make a determination what a complete application is. So we're outlining what that is. Here's what you need to provide to have a complete application. And then that starts the vesting process. And then we're doing some cross-referencing to building permits, certificates of occupancies, temporary uses, and those type of things that kind of overlap with some other areas of our code, just to make sure that we're covering those provisions. And then we're adding some things. We took out some things that were in our current chapter 119, moved them to 1805, and vice versa where we had conflict. So we're not adding a bunch of new regulation. We're just trying to make the regulations that we have had in there make sense, essentially. And so hopefully we've tried to accomplish that. So for Planning Commission review, the Planning Commission had an introduction to these chapters, and then they had 2 separate review meetings that they did in addition to a public hearing on the matter. The code changes are categorically exempt from environmental review under SEPA. We are required to give notice to the State Department of Commerce. We did that. We asked for expedited review, which is pretty common when we're doing procedural code changes. That was granted and completed on August 1st of this year. We've received no public comment into the record as of this point, as far as I know. As far as the development community and others, they've been waiting for us to make this change for a long time. So there has been slight applause in the background for us to move forward on this. Let's just say that. And the Planning Commission recommended unanimously that these changes to these chapters were approved as they were attached in the staff report. So, or we call them, staff memorandum. So on your attachments, you had a staff memorandum that was dated for today's date, September 1st. And then we also have a draft ordinance in there for you to take a look at. That's currently being reviewed by legal counsel. And we'll need that for a tentative public hearing with you folks on September 19th. And then you also have exhibits 1 and 2, which are the current draft chapters that were recommended by the Planning Commission, the chapter 1805 and the chapter 19110 for you folks to take a look at as well. So with that, I have the chapters available, or if you guys have any questions or you want me to prepare for anything on your next review, I would be happy to do any or all of the above.
Mine's not a question, it's a comment, which is, I always wonder, how do we get to these stages where stuff has been conflicting for a while and no one's done anything about it? So that's the long way around to say that it's usually time and having to be very meticulous in doing whatever it is that hasn't been done yet, which is a long way to say thank you for this work. I'm sure it feels really good to be this close to being done with it, but just wanted to acknowledge that I'm sure a lot of work went into that 7-minute summation, even though, it's been waiting there for a while. So thank you and your staff.
Thank you.
Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. I would just echo my thank you. This has been on our list for a while and really, really excited to be moving forward with it, not just to streamline, our processes, but also because of the liability involved in some of these decisions, which was a key part of a training that we took as a council. And one of the reasons that we had advocated for moving this direction was to ensure that we were being really mindful of the liability that we take on in some of these processes and ensuring that the that the person making those decisions was somebody that, to your point, oftentimes is a land use attorney or somebody that has a very strong background in these sorts of situations to ensure that we are making the best decisions possible on behalf of the community. So really do appreciate all of the work, Christy, and all of the work from the Planning Commission and you and your team and everybody involved in this process, because to Councilmember Woodard's point, there's a lot of information here, and recognize that that took a lot of time and consideration to get to this point, and excited to be here. Thank you.
All right. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'll echo, thank you. Really, really pleased that we're at the stage. I guess I just wanted to clarify timing wise, are we still on schedule to have this at our a review again at our next study session on the 15th, and then for public hearing on the 19th? Is that the plan?
Yeah, that's the current tentative schedule. I mean, that's a plan unless you folks decide that you want to go straight to a public hearing. So that's kind of, we're kind of told, give an opportunity to have the council review things twice before a public hearing unless you guys would like otherwise. So staff is open to whatever decision you make.
I think we used to do it twice, and then we went to just one.
Okay.
And then are we going back to twice?
I don't
That
really
was my
think-
previous direction.
Right, I know.
So, but we're ready either way. Everything's been done as far as state review, and the ordinance is close to being reviewed by legal. So, I mean, it's ready when you guys are, essentially.
Yep.
And we're ready when you are. so.
Okay. Then, yeah, we'll take a look at our next agendas and be ready to go.
Good,
Yeah.
thank you.
I think the public doesn't quite, well, I didn't realize it before I got on many of these committees, that you make one change, and there's probably 10 to 20 other places that need to get changed that you don't really see until you reading something else, and then all of a sudden it doesn't make sense. So it is a lot of work. All right. Well, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Okay, so next on our agenda is public comment. Do we have any public comment?
No one has signed up in person.
Is there
Would
anyone-
anyone in the online audience like to speak? If so, please use the hand raise tool in Zoom. Going once, going twice. That's the end of public comment.
All right, thank you. Okay, so next is council comments. Before we continue with council comments, I just want to say that I got a text from Virginia Clough. She listened to our meeting earlier today, and she is saying, I tuned in to the beginning just in case and heard it. Please tell the council and the staff, thank you very much. Serving Mountlake Terrace was an honor, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. So, I'm glad you heard that, Virginia. All right, so anyone else with council comments? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So actually, this would be a request of the council, of the staff, of our residents. In a couple weeks, we will have a presentation on an upcoming prevention coalition aimed at our youth. I'm going to read what it says. This prevention work is focused on decreasing youth substance through short and long-term strategies in partnership with the Edmonds School District and the Washington Healthcare Authority, specifically targeting Mountlake Terrace. From that, there'll be a long presentation where we'll learn much more about that. But we're in the process right now, I should point out, VOA is leading this charge, where we'll be looking to engage different sectors of the community, from youth to parents to law enforcement, healthcare professionals, media, youth-serving organizations. There's a whole long list here, including religious and fraternal organizations. So my offer and plea is for anyone who thinks, oh, this person would probably be good. Vaping will be one of the foci, I think is where you would say there, to give you an idea what we mean by substance abuse, but anyone who is engaged in helping our youth. As an example, I've met a handful of people this past weekend. We had an organization over here at the library. I'm just not blanking on their name now, but it was violence prevention. But nonetheless, I picked up a couple people there who might be useful, and this isn't, oh, we want the best person, we want anyone who's interested, and we'll weed it out through there. So I can send this through Stefan. I'm not sure, actually, who do I send things to now? I don't actually know that.
Are you asking me to respond because I can?
Yeah.
Yes.
Please.
We're still adjusting to altered responsibilities,
That's what I
so
thought.
I do need to make sure that the staff I asked to do this has confirmed with VOA to make sure it's on a certain date, so we can
Okay.
let you know. And
Okay.
then we'll share that with the council.
Good to know. That said, the list of the sectors that we're looking for, hopefully we can have that sent out to the council to look at. And if the media is interested, I'm happy to pass that on as well there. But really, we'd just be looking for folks who are interested, and then they'll learn more as we go. It will be a coalition, and it's a long-term strategy here. So I will pass that on, check your emails, and we'll work through that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to invite the council to join me. So later this month, the Washington Disability Rights Coalition is doing their second annual Week Without Driving. So some of you might remember I participated last year, but it's being held again September 19th through the 25th this year. And what they are doing is they're inviting public officials and community leaders and members from across the state to commit to trying to get around for an entire week without driving. And it was a really interesting, I know, you laugh because our lives are so oftentimes centered around cars, and up to 25% of the public cannot drive or doesn't have access to a vehicle. And so I think particularly as we are thinking about the decisions that we make as a council and how that impacts the community members who either, don't have income to have a vehicle, it's a very expensive proposition to have and maintain a vehicle, or they have physical limitations that provide them driving, I found that it was a really different way to experience our community than my normal week would look like. And I learned a lot. I think it is something that I have a lot more empathy for those who are, commuting around our community in a whole host of different ways. And it also, I think, elevated some of the challenges that we have and the things that we want to be thinking about and prioritizing as we think about whether it's ARPA funds, whether it's our comprehensive planning. And so, again, I would love if I could route some info to Stefan to send out to everybody. I found that whether you can do it for a day or the entire week, I think there is value to, thinking about how we commute around our community in a different way than oftentimes I think most of us do. So anyway, would love to have folks join me. And if you do and need some advice, I will happily share what I learned last year and would love to compare stories at the end here this year. So thanks so much.
I didn't know we could do it just for one day, because I don't know how I can show houses without a car.
Public transit around different homes, that'd be fun.
That would be. Oh, that's right,
I know I was over there, but I don't want to be there by myself.
okay. All right, so Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to remind council that in 3 weeks will be the Arts of the Terrace show, which will be starts Saturday, the 24th, and I believe there'll be a closed welcoming on the 23rd, and you'll all get an invitation to that. So that, unfortunately, might be during the week off of driving. But anyway, I want to make sure that everybody knows that it's going to start, and it will be last 1 week. 1 week. All right, thank you.
Does the Arts Commission need volunteers to set everything up?
We do need volunteers, and I'm not involved in coordinating that, so,
But if somebody wanted to volunteer to help set up the, I know that there's a particular way to do it, but if you need volunteers, who would they contact?
Arts Commissioner Connor Ryan, I'd go to the website and
Okay.
find that. We will be setting up panels on the 12th, Monday,
Okay,
and that will involve climbing, lifting, electrical systems, and panels.
and where is this art going to happen?
And that's going to be in our library, so our Mountlake Terrace Library.
All right,
All right,
so our art show starts on the 24th
24th.
for 1 week.
Yes, thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead. Did you have something to add?
Do we want to talk about the SEC, the 29th?
Okay.
Go ahead.
At your request. The next Snohomish County Cities meeting, dinner is scheduled for September 29th at Terracotta Red. Snohomish County Human Services staff are going to present their work on affordable housing with the new 1590, that's 1590 funds being collected by the county. So if the city council wishes to attend that dinner, it will need to cancel the September 29th city council meeting and issue a cancellation notice. And then if the city council wants to reschedule the September 29th meeting, a special city council workshop meeting notice will be issued. And for example, another date and time, perhaps maybe September 28th at 7 p.m.
Well, isn't that meeting also the part of the roadshow for AWC? And
Yes, it does say that important information for decision makers, they will be making policy decisions in their own communities regarding affordable housing, and then also comprehensive plan updates that are coming up. And they'll also have AWC Deanna Dawson joining as part of their cities on the TAP series. And that was the information that was sent to me.
so, yes, go ahead.
One suggestion could be that something we've done in the past and just have one or two or one council member attend and not attend our meeting. That's another thing. So it's up to everybody if you want to go up and do all that, or do you want one
Oh,
or
it's-
two?
It's also the AWC section of that.
AWC in that,
Yeah, because they're
okay.
having a roadshow.
Oh, wow.
This is the Everett Roadshow, which they're doing in conjunction with, apparently, Snohomish County Cities. And it happens to fall on that date.
Okay. Well, I thought I'd try.
Right, Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just looking ahead to the calendar, and Stefan, let us know if there's any updates, but looking at the September 29th calendar, that it's a work study session, and we'll be reviewing the multifamily property tax exemption program, which we've done several times already, in preparation for the hearing on the 3rd, and then
Correct.
also review of proposed waste management agreement extension. Is that something that we need to have, to reschedule a meeting, or potentially send representatives and have that meeting? Or is it something that we, or I should ask the council, do we feel like we need an additional session, work session to study the multifamily tax exemption prior to the public hearing? If not, perhaps we can cancel the meeting and attend the SEC meeting or dinner, if that's, so I guess I'm just inquiring about any other agenda items that we need to be concerned about, or are we okay canceling that meeting?
So, yes. So, yes, the ordinance, I'd have to check with the city attorney as to whether or not you need to actually have a workshop before the ordinance is considered. I don't think we do. I will double check. But the wastewater management agreement extension, that is tentative, so that's not required at that time. It is expiring in October, so we're hoping to get it to you soon. I'm actually going to go over in a few minutes and tell you all the things I'm working on. That's one of them. So that is tentative, and we can check on the MFTE. You know, we can, if you want to have the meeting on the 28th, you know, we could do that for the MFT if we have to, but we may not need to, so I'll confirm.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Right now, what I'm hearing is the city council, at least some of you plan on attending on the event on the 29th.
Go ahead, Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. Is that something that we need to register for individually, or do we need to just let you know that we're interested in attending?
Maybe we can let Jennifer know who's attending and you can make,
It does say to please RSVP as soon as possible so they can get a head count. And if you could let us know right now, I guess we could RSVP on your behalf. Would that be easier?
That would be lovely. Thank you.
Could you raise your hands and I'll get a count? So I'm seeing 5, 6. Okay, thank you.
we probably should let Councilmember McCardle know.
I'll RSVP for 7, assuming that he may also want to go.
So, Stefan, did you have any more to add?
I do. I actually have a number of them. So.
All right.
Okay. City Council, we have a park cleanup that's planned in remembrance of 9/11. A park cleanup in honor of National Day of Service is set for 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. on Saturday, September 10th. Volunteers should meet at the Recreation Pavilion parking lot in comfortable work clothes and gardening gloves and some tools. And this is a rain or shine event, and you can get more information on this by calling Ken Courtmanch at 425-776-1811 or kcourtmanch at mltw.gov. That's KCOURT, M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, CH at M as in Mary, LTWA.gov. Also, Jake Johnston with the Johnston Group contacted me recently, and he is asking to schedule a meeting with city staff to talk about our federal funding priorities. So I will be scheduling a meeting with Parks, Public Works, CED, and others to talk about our funding priorities. As you might recall, we were successful recently getting funds for the connection trail through Veterans Park out to the Transit Center. So we'll be working with him on that. Next, I have an item from Shelley Helder. She's with Gordon Thomas Honeywell. And Shelley is proposing a legislative steering committee with the City Council, a few of you, to begin the process of identifying the city's legislative priorities. It would include a few council members and relevant city staff. She's proposing that she facilitate the committee meetings and provide some guidance for the group to consider. She would like to begin developing the city's legislative priorities and legislative outreach. And so if you're able to identify a few council members this evening that are interested in doing that, or perhaps provide me some names soon, I can let her know. She would like to start in mid-September if possible to kind of get the ball rolling and make sure that she has what she needs by the time the legislative session begins so that she can start sharing your priorities.
Do we have anyone who would like to volunteer for that tonight? Councilmember Murray? No? Oh, we have one.
What is it specific night?
No, well, she's going to,
She'll set.
yeah.
And remember, if your hesitancy is showing up in person, this is something that can be done via Zoom. So we could do that. would make it probably a lot easier for everyone's schedule, and she wouldn't have to travel, and neither would the city council, so we could do it that way.
Well, we'll extend the invitation out to Councilmember McCardle, too.
What's that?
We'll extend the invitation out to Councilmember McCardle,
She's,
because he's not here to say whether or not he wants to be on the committee tonight.
yeah, I can contact. Mayor, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Is your mic on?
It is.
Okay, there you go. Now,
Oh, it's
that's
just a
better.
little closer now. Well, you have to
Okay.
be right next to it.
I heard a couple things. I might have heard we could appoint Councilmember McCardle because he's not here, or I heard for us to contact him on your behalf to see if he's interested.
Yes, he's not here tonight to volunteer, or not volunteer, so I thought we would at least ask him.
Okay.
How many members does she want?
She said a few council members, so it could be a couple, 2, 3, as long as it's not a quorum.
Oh, that's maximum 3.
So I will contact Councilmember McCardle to see if he's interested.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I have a few other things that are rather high profile. So as you know, Eric LaFrance left the city on August 26th. I reached out, and collectively we reached out. And what I mean collectively, I mean several staff, HR, Virginia, myself, others, trying to find someone that could fill that void ASAP. We have projects that are under construction. We have federal obligations related to funding. We have positions that need to be filled. The need to fill this position is critical. So I reached out, actually found one. He is able to start on Tuesday, so that means we would only have a 1-week gap between Eric leaving and this new person coming on board. I worked with the city attorney and the HR director, and we prepared a professional services contract. As you know, I have signing authorization up to $40,000. It will allow us to be more if we're having this person go through the end of the year. So I would be looking to the city council, council support for additional funds, and I would be coming to the city council with a formal request to make sure that we don't exceed that $40,000, before it's, make sure it's not expended. But he's highly seasoned, and he just did this at Redmond for 6 months while they identified and tried to find their public works director. So he's going to be renting an apartment here in Mountlake Terrace, so he's serious about helping us out. And I think when you see him, you might even recognize him, and you'll be very happy. So I haven't mentioned his name yet, only because we haven't got a signed contract yet. But he has agreed, and we send it to him to sign. Also, with Virginia's departure, we do have a need to find a city clerk. We're already advertising for that position. The council recently authorized splitting up the responsibilities, so city clerk responsibilities reside only with that position, and then communications with another person. So that should help us in our recruitment. I reached out to another individual, and she has agreed to attend future council meetings for at least maybe 4 to 6 meetings, so not a lot, won't be a lot of money. And she'll come on as a temporary employee, and I can actually share her name. It's Sandy Chase. She was the city clerk at Edmonds years ago. And so the goal here is, while we search, is for her to sit alongside Jennifer and just, because Jennifer's learning, and so she's working on the computer, trying to take notes and everything. So it'll be good for someone who's used to protocol, understands how a council functions, and then they can communicate back and forth and make sure that they're collectively hearing the same thing so that we get everything right. So that's the second item that I'm working on. So at least the city staff are very happy right now that we're getting these positions, at least on a temporary basis, filled. Then, as far as work items, just to let you know, kind of a heads up of what's coming down the pike, I'm working on the AT&T franchise, and I'm working with the Dushan Communications Group out of Colorado. We are close to being able to present to you the AT&T franchise. They only have one utility pole located at 238th and 44th, but it requires the franchise to be renewed, so we're bringing that to you soon. And then I'm working on the Comcast cable franchise agreement. We've had a few rounds of comments going back and forth, but I think we're getting close to being able to present that to you as well. And then we've had a number of meetings with waste management representatives because the waste management agreement is expiring soon and we need to get that in front of you. And so I've been able to talk with a few of you about possible rate increases that are proposed to take place. I can share that, relatively speaking, compared to other communities, I think the council will feel a little better about what's coming your way to consider. So that's coming down the pike. And then lastly, I will not be here tomorrow and will not be available. And then for next week, I've altered my vacation schedule. So I am able to be here on the 6th and 7th. So if you need me then, I'll be happy to talk with you.
All right, Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Stefan. Appreciate all of your hard work and all of the good things that you reported on happening. A couple of just quick questions. I guess one, or clarification, and just to make sure that it's clear to the public. So for the Public Works Director, the person that we are proposing, that we're having conversations with bringing on, that is a bridge solution, correct, until we go through a competitive recruiting process and hire a full-time Public Works Director, correct?
That's correct.
Great.
And we will use this person's expertise to help us in the recruitment interview process, reviewing of the resumes, et cetera.
That's so great to have that expertise potentially coming on board. So thank you for all of that hard work there. And then just a quick question about, because we haven't had a chance to connect on the waste potential rate increases. Do we have a timeline from, I guess, when does that potentially impact residents? Just so I guess I have some context there.
Upon its adoption, and I have been communicating with waste management representatives because it is expiring in October, and so I have shared with them, that we do have some staffing shortages right now. I'm kind of the main person working on the franchise or the agreement, and so they are communicating amongst themselves to collectively talking about protracting this out for a month or two. Just so we, collectively make sure that, we have time to review this and that the expiration doesn't mean everything goes sideways.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again for all of that work. And
you're welcome.
Appreciate it very much.
Okay, anyone else? Councilmember Woodard?
Thank you for your work, but I was going to go in a different direction, so I can wait. It wasn't about what Stefan's talking about. It's not about what Stefan's talking about. I realized I had one more.
Okay,
comment.
go ahead.
Anybody else?
Are we done with, we're done with Stefan, so you can go ahead and bring up your.
And again, thank you for all that work you're doing. Totally shifting gears. I cannot pull up my email, and that's on me, which is to say we all got this email. One of our residents sent an idea about the post office. So rather than go into that now, because not everyone necessarily has seen that, I would just like to know if we can have a conversation about where we are with the post office and its soon-to-be vacated space. Perfect.
Go ahead, Stefan.
Okay. I actually communicated with the mayor on this recently about that same email. Christy and I both walked around the town center 2 days ago. Is that correct, Christy? 2 days ago, with 3 representatives from the United States Postal Service. And trying to find a building that will meet their needs, even on an interim basis, is fairly challenging. Some of the buildings that we were identifying that really wouldn't work for them, and buildings they were looking at, they weren't sure about whether or not those would work. So it is something I think that we're collectively working on together. We did tell them that we would reach out to a few of the individuals that we know that either own buildings or lease buildings to see if we can't find any information for them, and they're also doing the same thing. I actually worked with, what group was it? In Edmonds, when a similar situation occurred, and they eventually relocated their postal service into a brand-new building on 2nd Avenue, and it turned out to be a great facility, and the model is similar to that, where it's primarily post office boxes. You can mail, you can pick up your mail, et cetera, but most of the major mail functions are occurring in Perrinville.
Yeah, we're going to want to keep the post office in Mountlake Terrace, so hopefully we'll do everything we can. Okay, I don't see anyone else's hands going up. All right. So I don't see anyone's hands going up, and no one's got anything else. I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Oh, I don't have a thing. Meeting is adjourned. Oh.